Hi, hello, and welcome to the Schleswig-Holstein Saal here at the Landeshaus at the heart of Kieler Woche. Welcome to the Global Economy Prize 2025. Let's start with a strong word, a notion, a sentiment, a stance, an almost raised fist in spirit. Courage.
Yeah, courage is the theme of this, the 20th Global Economy Prize. And I believe it's a word, it's a notion, it's an attitude that was never as necessary as today. But we're not just talking about courage per se, we're talking about courage for change, and that's something slightly different. Today, more than ever, looking at the changes what we've experienced recently, all the changes that are around us, the new old ones, like 10 years ago, we're talking about climate change, we're talking about loss of biodiversity, we're talking about pollution. Now, we're talking about loss of democracy, we're talking about loss of multilateralism, we talk about the rise of regimes that are authoritarian, and we're talking about the resurgence of wars.
When we say courage for change, we mean to stand by the spirit of this annual award, to hail pioneers of a cosmopolitan, economically liberal, and public-spirited society. The combination of forces behind the Global Economy Prize is, as always, 19 times before the Kiel Institute for the World Economy, together with its partners, the state capital Kiel and the Schleswig-Holstein Chamber of Commerce and Industry. Many contributed to this award today, last but not least the jury, who selected great awardees, and spoiler, they are really great this year. And of course, today you, ladies and gentlemen, in the audience are also an important contribution.
And again, compliments for being so punctual. Okay, before we listen to the opening remarks of our host, Moritz Schularick, I can also say thank you very much to the other host, to the host, and that's the Speaker of Parliament here in I almost said Berlin, sorry, Kiel. We're in Kiel today. And of course, that Mrs. Herbst, thank you very much for letting us use your fantastic house. Now, all of those have been at award ceremonies before, and some of you might have actually have been here for 19 times, 18 times, or just 2 or 3. So you think you know what it's all about, but it's going to change. I mean, you know, we're talking about courage to change, so we decided we're going to go the full way. Anyway, so 2025 is different, and when we talk about the word courage, then I do not know how often you actually think about, am I courageous, am I not courageous? It's actually not the absence of fear, pain, danger, uncertainty, or intimidation. It's actually standing up to it. And I think that is an attitude that we do need today more than ever.
And with that, I would like to invite to the stage my boss, who happens to be president of the Kiel Institute for the World Economy, Professor Dr. Moritz Schularick. The stage and, more importantly, the audience is yours.
And no podium.
Thank you so much, Connie and Elisabeth. And I will be very brief because we're on a tight schedule. We have a rocket launch as part of this, not quite a rocket launch, but someone in California at a rocket launcher. So our schedule is really tight. I want to say, dear esteemed President of the State Parliament, Ms. Herbst, Honorable Minister Madsen, lieber Claus, Honorable State Secretary Wendt, lieber Wendt, also is at the helm of the board of the Supervisory Board of the Kiel Institute and a guarantor of the wonderful opportunities we have as an institute in this wonderful city. Dear Mr. Hansen, where is Mr. There you are. So nice to have you all here. Dear laureates, Monika, Gabriel, and Hélène later, and ladies and gentlemen, change. That's what this is all about, the courage to change, to take new ways, to go where things are maybe not as clear, but where we have to go if we want to overcome the old. And in this country, I think nothing is more urgent right now than change. That's why we've chosen this motto, and that's why we've chosen 3 wonderful laureates who each in his or her own way embody stand for change, stand for courage to go different ways. Be it in the realms of technology, in trade, in immigration, in security, in, we talk about the social security system. We'll talk about many things right now where it's not hard to imagine Europe not taking, or even this country not taking the necessary steps to change, and us becoming a little bit of a welfare museum and more of an object than a subject of history. So if we don't change, ladies and gentlemen, that's my last sentence, because I'm really curious to hear about actual change that people build and make in this world. Without that change, ladies and gentlemen, we have very little future. So this is the courage to change is what we want in this crucial year as well, with a new government on the federal level going forward, the signal we want to send as a Kiel Institute into the coming months and years ahead. Without much further ado then, I hand over back to Conny and Elisabeth. Thank you very much for being here.
Thank you, Moritz. We'll be seeing you later because you've got an important role here. We're talking about three aspects of life: business, politics, economics, and we're talking about three outstanding personalities that are already in the room, and we're looking forward to actually having a chat with you later. We're talking about achievers, we're talking about pioneers, we're talking about thinkers. And this year, as we said, things are slightly different from the last couple of years because, for one, we have,
like you might have noticed, two moderators. At my side, it's Conny Cimoch. She's a seasoned international moderator and media coach and a good friend to the Institute for many years, friend and mentor to me as well.
That's wonderful. Thank you, Elisabeth. And when Elisabeth is not just moderating and sort of presenting for the Kiel Institute, she's the head of outreach at Kiel Institute, and it must be quite something different to sort of welcome your boss on the stage and say, you can finally talk. Normally, probably it's to do. Okay, fine. That's your affair. And then, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to have a one-on-one with each of the awardees. We're going to have the sponsors that have supported them. We say thank you to the jury who's been working very hard. And then towards the end, we're going to have a hint of Hollywood. Not too much, because after all, we're in Kiel and not in Berlin. And ladies and gentlemen, the nice thing is, afterwards, we all are going to have a drink together.
Talking about doing things differently, that is exactly how we're going to start today, since our business awardee cannot be with us right now and right here. After all, throughout COVID, the big testing ground for totally different kind of courage, we all learned that it's possible. We all learned we can Zoom. So this is what we're going to do in a moment after the jury's take on Hélène Huby's achievements.
Hélène Huby is a distinguished expert in the aviation industry, a remarkably courageous entrepreneur, and a highly successful fundraiser. She played a key role in the manufacture and delivery of the European service module for the Orion space shuttle. By founding the exploration company, she set herself the ambitious goal of developing European solutions for transporting goods and people to space stations and the moon. At the same time, she is working to democratize space exploration, making it affordable, sustainable, and open. Her bold, pioneering spirit makes her a shining beacon of the European space industry.
So, she is indeed a rocket scientist. I really love to say that because there's so many people who always would like to say it's not rocket science. This time it is rocket science. And when we look at this jury statement, we see something that is seldom: the courage and consistency to look and to expand where no one else looked before. Well, maybe not no one else, but no one else here in Europe. And I really hope we have her with us right now.
Yes, I am here. I hope you can...
There she is!
Okay, and so I'm very happy to be with you today and very honored, of course, by this prize.
Dear Ms. Huby, it's so great to have you here. We will congratulate formally a little later. For now, you cannot be with us today, and first we thought you will be in Paris. But now we learned you're not in Paris, but still in the US and California. What's happening?
Well, depending on a good weather forecast, but so far we are go. We'll be launching today our second space capsule prototype that's going to perform the controlled re-entry in the atmosphere. And the launch is scheduled now in the next 9 hours. So that's the reason why I'm not with you today, and I'm actually right now heading to the rocket launch pad to be with the team in the Mission Control Center.
Okay, you have a long day ahead of you.
Yes.
But we're very happy you're still with us here. And yes, you took a very bold step in founding a European space company in a field that was long dominated and maybe still is dominated by state giants and American corporations. So what drove and what drives your ambition?
Yeah, I have actually two main drivers. The first one is I believe in talent in Europe. I believe in ambition. I believe that we have the capability to bring something different to the world, because Europe has been the heart of cooperation between nations, and this is how we've been able to build peace and to maintain peace between us. And I want to scale this cooperation in space, and I also want to unleash the European talent. So the company we built, and company is now almost 4 years. We've grown the team from 4 people to more than 300 now. We have offices in Germany, in France, in Italy, in the US, and also we are opening this year in the UAE. And we raised the biggest Series B ever raised. So we've been very, very business-wise, but epitomizing this mission of cooperation across nations. We are and while building space vehicle across nations, we are sharing key dual technologies across these nations. So that's the objective number 1, and objective number 2, of course, is to build here in Europe a global space giant.
Hélène, I have to out myself as a Trekkie and as somebody who's been working with a number of the European astronauts that are training in Cologne. So once you're there, it's actually a great atmosphere of belonging together. How do you think this belonging together, this atmosphere of being European, can also be transferred into the industry, into space industry that is basically European at heart?
Yeah, I mean, first I think it's of the essence of our industry to work together, because building a very complex spacecraft, and so we are building right now space capsule, which is one of the most complex spacecraft ever built in space. You only have right now China, US, and Russia mastering this technology. So I hope we'll be the 4th continent mastering this technology. A space vehicle is like a body. Like everything has to work together, and everything influences everything. So it means that everyone in the team has to do his or her job perfectly. We can fail after billions spent because one technician has chosen the wrong material for one screw. You know, or one engineer has not taken the right hypothesis to build his or her model. And nobody's going to check on that. So it means everyone in the way we build spacecraft has an outstanding responsibility towards success. And this working together is at the core of what we're doing. So working together between European countries, which is what we are doing since the beginning, because we founded the company between Germany and France from day 1. Sometimes has some difficulties, I must say, because some nations, they still think, hey, we need to be 1% German or 1% French or 1% Italian. I think it doesn't make sense. If we want to build something big in Europe, we need to think global from the start, and we need to work together. So I had to fight sometimes a lot. I had to convince a lot of people. But we believe we are right to do that together, and I hope this we can demonstrate to the world today once we will be launching our capsule in space.
At least your company is also a symbol of Europe with 2 nations working together very well. So we keep our fingers crossed. Elizabeth?
Thank you.
Yes, we truly keep our fingers crossed. And you talked about your teamwork, and you also talked about possible failures. So is there like the one or maybe also 2 personal experiences, maybe a conversation, maybe a setback or a breakthrough that really captures what this journey has meant for you?
Yeah, I think perhaps one anecdote I'd like to share. I started by failing when I was at that time at Ariane Group. And I proposed to the CEO a project of like doing a mini SpaceX, building a spin-off of Ariane. And we started on that project, building very, very fast, and I think very successfully a small rocket. And then the project was stopped. So the investors I had gathered, as well as the team I had gathered, we had to shut down the project. And actually that same people, that same private investors, that same people joined me in the adventure of the exploration company, where we're just like 4 people, 50K in the bank account, and saying to everyone, hey, we're going to build the first privately funded capsule in the world. These people who failed with me, they joined with me. So I think that's a great anecdote. It means that if you want to build something which is really meaningful, and you have people with you who want to follow you because of the meaning of what you're building, even if you fail, they'll continue afterwards because the mission is meaningful.
Very briefly, because you have a long day ahead of us and we're running a little bit out of time.
Sorry.
In your journey, you're obviously the one in the driver's seat, but who is your team that accompanied you on your journey? Who is with you? Who would you like to thank for that?
I mean, I'd like to thank, of course, the people who started, first on this train. And I would like to underline that these are people from very different ages. I have very experienced people in my team, more than 55 years old, and also very young people. But like nothing in particular. If there is perhaps one person that comes to my mind, of course, is my husband and my kids, because I don't see them a lot because I'm working like crazy, and they are supporting me on this journey, like very, very much. Yeah, but as I was said at the beginning, everybody in this company is indispensable to our success. So, yeah.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And if Hélène can still hear us, we keep our fingers crossed that today at 2318, the SpaceX will launch, and we're talking about co-opetition. SpaceX and Elizabeth and Helene's company were supposed to have been a competition, but you can see that in space you can actually co-create, and we're looking forward to that. So, having said that, I'd like to ask to come up on stage the sponsor, Knud Hansen, the president of the IHK, the Chamber of Commerce and Industry of Kiel, and Vice President of the Chamber of Commerce and Industry of Schleswig-Holstein. That's a long title, so. Thank you for being with us.
Yeah, thank you.
Don't worry, we're not going to ask you 10 questions. Just first of all, what we've just heard is sort of, this enthusiasm, this really wanting more and daring more. And space is very far away. Not far away from Kiel, because, that's everywhere in this globe. But this kind of spirit, how much is that reflected in the work that you're doing here, both in Kiel and in Schleswig-Holstein? Are there enough grants, pushes, people?
Yes, of course, we have enough people. But first of all, before I answer to your question, I just want to take the chance to say hello to everybody in this hall and to everybody outside. We have a live stream? Yeah. No, we have no live stream.
So the worst
just
thing
for
is
you, just for the audience.
You can say anything you want,
you
can
great.
Cut it out.
Yeah, so thank you. And I bring with me all the best wishes from my colleagues from the Chamber of Commerce, from Flensburg and Lübeck and Kiel, of course. So greetings from all over of Schleswig-Holstein. Welcome to have you here. It's fine to have you here.
Again, we're talking about this sort of pioneering.
Yes, and now I come back to your question. And first of all, I think I have to mention it's totally a little bit crazy, and it's fantastic what Hélène Huby has done. She brought her idea to real. And that's really fantastic. And therefore, I'm very proud to be the sponsor of this Courage Lady. And thank you, Hélène. I don't know if you hear me now. Thank you very much for your courage you've shown to the world. Thank you very much. And what is the takeaway from for Schleswig-Holstein? That was your question. I think the takeaway for Schleswig-Holstein is that we exactly support these kind of courage, these kind of people who do things we can't believe that they do that, and that's very important. And after that, it's now I'm lost my speech a little bit.
I mean, are there any?
I lost your question.
The basic question is: are there any schemes? Are there any? I mean, it doesn't have to be space industry. It needs to be in order to support people that are thinking out of the box.
Yes.
People who have new ideas.
Yeah, we need these people to solve the problems we have in our world, and not only in Schleswig-Holstein. And we have to have economic growth in Schleswig-Holstein. We have to have economic growth in Germany and Europe as well, to have enough money to solve the great goals we have, the great goals in security, the great goals in independence from other countries out of Europe, and of course the great goal of a climate-neutral industrial future.
Perfect.
So that's the reason why we have to have support these great entrepreneurs like Hélène Huby.
Knud, Mr. Hansen, thank you very much for your contribution and, of course, for your patronage of Hélène Huby.
Yes.
Thank you so much. And you know, I've outed myself as a Trekkie, but I would say, live long and prosper.
But we're going to see you soon, so you still have the second part ahead of you. And speaking of the second part, we will now come to our second category. We talked about business in Schleswig-Holstein, and now we're looking forward to our second category, and that is politics.
Gabrielius Landsbergis is an extremely far-sighted foreign policy strategist, an outstanding analyst of geopolitical developments, and a convinced European. As Foreign Minister of Lithuania, he was among the first to advocate for a strong, proactive response to Russia's invasion of Ukraine, calling for a policy of deterrence and all necessary measures to help Ukraine achieve victory. Through his foresight and determined analysis, he helped Lithuania quickly become a highly respected voice within NATO.
Here he is, ladies and gentlemen, Gabrielius Landsbergis. Thank you very much for being with us here today. And I almost thought you were going to get out sort of a piece of paper to hold a speech. I mean, this is just going to be, you know, amongst us. Don't worry. We're talking about courage as the important issue of the day. And you yourself, for your country, have shown a lot of courage. Now we have an era that is not so much sponsored by the idea of courage, more by the idea of chaos. So how can we survive in this changed environment, in this dramatically changed environment?
Well, first of all, it's a great pleasure to be here. I'm truly thankful for this opportunity and humbled as well. I'd say that the last 2 decades have shown to the world that we don't live in a stable world. Somehow we managed to convince ourselves that the stability is given. And we're born in an ever-growing world, you know, where every new year just brings some additional developments in technology, science. The economy is just, you know, going up. The unemployment is always going down. And I think that those beliefs have been shattered through the economic crisis in 2009 and 10, through COVID crisis, and lastly through the geopolitical reshuffles that you could call in Europe and elsewhere. And now the new generation is coming in, of the politicians, of people who are being born in this environment, really don't know what to do. We don't have textbooks. that would allow us to really to react properly to this changing environment. And therefore, I believe that we have to have courage to admit that the world is not stable, and we have to prepare for it, and we have to use our instruments in order to be ready to adapt to this. Either economic change, either geopolitical change, either climate change, or whatever is happening there, and be brave, be forward in this reality, or else just admit that then the reality will be forced on us, which we don't want.
We've had this sort of get up and go 2015, 3 international treaties. Then we've had sort of the European Green Deal. Not that much is talked about that at the moment. And we've had now the re-emergence of not just one, but wars. Where is the European voice to be heard, and how can we shape it to be strong again, stronger than now? Because even though, I mean, like the talks with Iran were initiated now by the Europeans, but you know, what can they do? Americans are not at the table. So again, where is the strength of Europe that we need to strengthen again?
Well, that's an excellent question.
You always get that when people have to think.
No, it's not just that. It's because it's actually quite worrying. You know, when I see Europeans scrambling to have a sit down with Iranians just hours before Iranian nuclear sites are being bombed, it looks a bit sad. You know, what does it tell a European diplomat? It tells us, you know, how much power do we have? You know, we sat with Iranians, we talked with Iranians, and what did come out of it? You know, we were never consulted, you know, before the bombing. We don't even know that this is going to happen. And I mean, Europe now, in most of the cases, is being, you know, pushed aside. And it's really unfortunate when you think about the continent of 450 million people, probably one of the richest areas in the world, which could definitely is able to have a leverage, a political, a geopolitical, even military when it's needed to defend its allies, leverage, but chooses not to. And I'm really worried that if we don't step up, if we don't change the thinking and don't find again anew our power within the European power, we will be left aside. And then the question will be, what will remain of Europe?
Tough topics we're talking about, and yeah, it's a reality. But as a politician, you live this reality like every day. And here in Germany, and I think elsewhere, we talk a lot about resilience. So, do you remember like specific moments from your political career that personally moved you, or, to come back to our motive, truly tested your own courage?
Well, I mean, it happened so that I was thinking, as a minister for 4 years, I had to brave through several of the crises. We had, you know, some months in, when even the COVID was not yet ended, we had our air flight hijacked by the Belarusian dictator Lukashenko. An air flight that was going from Athens to Vilnius, it suddenly was forced to land in Minsk, with full of people, and they were not let out of the airport because he wanted to take a single person, an opposition member, from the airplane. And it was like, you know, I don't know, 5th month in work. And I said, if this is the start, so, you know, can it get worse? And it did get worse. Actually, it did get much, much worse. The word, actually, we just came here with my wife from London, where we had a chance to visit the famous gallery, the painting gallery in the center of London. And, you know, and they have these murals. And they are interesting looking because they resemble old Roman murals, but actually they are quite modern. And one of them pictures Churchill. And behind Churchill is written defiance, which for many of us is kind of, it sounds like a bad word, right? I mean, you know, you teach your child not to be defiant. But when you think about the courage and the things that are brought on you, you have to be defiant to shape your reality the way that you want to shape it. And for me, coming from a very tiny country, you know, 2.8 million, just a bit north from Kiel, the reality is very often forced upon us by the dictators, even by our friends. You know, this is how you are supposed to live. This is how the way that you're supposed to see geopolitics or any other event. And you have to be a little bit defiant. You say, no, we will define our own reality in our own terms, and then we'll meet halfway.
How do you do that? And I should actually ask you about sort of the next question, but how do you do that? How do you define who you are?
Well, you have to be, you just have to brave through. You have to be, you have to be brave.
You've changed your own position from, of course, being active in politics. Then election results weren't as they were supposed to. Right at the moment, you're an observer, you're a commentator. When you look back, and we know that the name Landsbergis is a big name in Lithuania. Your grandfather was very influential. Maybe apart from your grandfather, who or what has influenced your stance? And are we going to see you back on the political? Okay, I haven't asked that. Okay, so what inspires you?
No, I would say that the family history does not inspire in one way or another. I mean, usually you put yourself in the shoes of a person, even as close as my grandfather, and think, what would I have done? And again, this is a very similar approach. Nobody believed that in 1990s, March 11, Lithuania would be able to declare its independence. Nobody would believe that a country as small as Lithuania would actually break the Soviet Union apart, because that was when it started. For many in the West, for many of our friends today, the Soviet Union broke 1.5 years later, after the push that failed, Yeltsin and the tanks in Moscow. For us, it became a reality in 1990, just because some brave people decided that was the time. And I'm very glad that they did. And that's that fixates you also in a position, to think and in the right position, which I'm glad that it does.
So the right and lucky time and the right people in the right position. We hope you continue, but we are not going to be alone now on stage.
Because we would like to invite on our stage Dr. Ulf Kämpfer. He's the mayor of Kiel. Actually, he's not here for the first time. He's here, if I counted correctly, for the 11th time. And maybe more importantly, it's definitely his last year in this role. There are maybe 1 or 2 people in the room who might take his position next year, depending on election results in fall. But since 11 years, you have been patron of the Political Award, and we are very happy you're here with us today. So,
thank you very much, and welcome to everyone.
Yeah. We talked about courage, and we talked about Gabrielius Landsbergis really representing a courageous European stance in face of immense geopolitical pressure right at the moment. So here in Kiel, Gabrielius just mentioned it's just a little bit, Lithuania just a little bit north. We have a direct ferry connection to Lithuania. Kiel also has like a history of as a military port, and we're a city that lives and breathes European cooperation. So how do you see his role in shaping the values a city like Kiel needs?
I think, first, congratulations to this well-earned prize. And I think it can be inspiring for many of us, but for me as a mayor of Kiel especially, Kiel is so dependent on the history of the shipyards of the Navy, and was a reason why Kiel grew big, and it was a reason because it was destroyed during the Second World War. And so it's a clear sign that I have my own challenges here as a mayor, but I get all the problems for free that exist in the world. Yeah? I get the refugee crisis, the inflation, world politics, they all come down. And on one side, this is fascinating, and one reason why I love to be mayor, but it's stressing sometimes too. And I think we were in Germany very late in the European Union and the NATO, recognizing the threat that Russia exposes to the security. And I always admire politicians from Baltic states, and you especially, for that clear stance and just say it as it is. And so we did a really bad job on that. And I think the first step to bring change in the world is just to accept reality. And sometimes I think this clear stance is mistaken as anti-Russian. I don't think that is the case at all. It's pro-European, it's pro-democracy, it's pro-freedom, and it's pro-security. And we really can admire you that you are telling us the hard truth that we slowly, but hopefully surely, adapt to.
So, you're also a politician, and where do you, in your work, I think you already hinted to that, but the greatest need for courage to enact change, and where do you experience resistance?
I put it another way. I think the best time for change or innovation is if we have really good problems. And if you look at the world right now, we have really lots of good problems now, and that normally should inspire a change, but it does not come automatically. So resistance is a tough word. I mean, what I learn when I talk to my people, there's a lot of insecurity. And so if we want to inspire change, and if we want that people trust us on the way to change and hard choices, we need security in other areas. Now we have social insecurity, so the world peace is in danger and so on. So the people just say there's insecurity everywhere. And so we have to do a better job as delivering as a democracy on every state level and on my municipal level too, that people gain trust again in our democracy and how we are working from the European level to the municipal level. And then I think they will follow us if we say we live in dangerous times. We cannot go this crisis to waste and use it as a facilitator to change. But we have to earn the trust, and we see in every election cycle we are losing trust. And as a mayor, I try to make my small contribution to gain this trust again. We lost it, and it's a hard fact to accept, I think.
I could go on forever, but we're going to have a panel discussion in a moment, so I'm going to stop myself. Elizabeth?
We're going to see you again in a few moments. For a moment, please take your seats.
Thank you so much, Ulf, for sharing your thoughts with us. Thank you. Because, ladies and gentlemen, we of course have a third award to give away, and we're going to be greeting a wonderful lady up on stage in a moment. But first of all, let's have a quick look at who she is.
Monika Schnitzer is a pioneer of empirical microeconomics in Germany, an outstanding policy advisor, and an excellent teacher in every sense of the word. Her research is marked by innovative ideas and the latest empirical methods. Like few others, she succeeds in deriving clear, targeted, and convincing economic policy recommendations from her scientific findings, recommendations that are well received by both policymakers and the public. Her exceptional talent for embedding complex economic concepts into clear and compelling narratives makes her a highly valued teacher among her students.
Yes. Monika Schnitzer, please join us on stage. We're so happy to have you here today. Thank you for being here. You're chairwoman of the German Council for Economic Experts and professor at the LMU in Munich. And you are considered one of Germany's most influential economic voices. We already talked about the multiple crises we're experiencing today. So how would you define economic courage?
Okay, well, thanks a lot actually for having me here. So it's a great honor. So what defines courage today? First of all, speaking out. I think we need to speak out and exactly call all the issues to the forefront, namely that we have been lagging behind, that we have not done the right reforms, that we have not taken up this leadership role as we should have in Europe, in the world, that we have relied on other companies for our defense, for instance, for technological leadership. Yeah, I think first of all, speaking up and then actually taking action. That's what courage means.
Taking action is a great word we need right now, because when we look at the current debates on geo-economic developments, on industrial policy, fiscal rules, innovation, last but not least AI, where does Germany most urgently need a willingness to change? Or maybe not just willingness, but also capability and capacity to change? Where will you start?
Okay, let me point at two topics. One which is extremely unpopular, talking about courage and what you need to speak up about is demographic change, and that we need to have reforms like a pension reform. I can tell you about a talk show I was on Friday, actually here in the north, 3 nach 9, and the reactions I got when I talked about pensions later on was, you see how people like that topic.
We call it love letters.
And so you see, okay, this is a really challenging topic, but you need to talk about it, and you need to find the courage to change something like that. The second thing where I really think we need action is we have to develop a vision what the economy of our country will look like in the years to come. And here I think we have been too much backward looking, trying to conserve what we are good at. And yes, we have been very good at in producing stuff. I mean, we invented the Haber-Bosch method to produce fertilizers. We invented the cars. We invented a lot of stuff, and that's very good, but this is history that belongs to a museum to some extent. We need to also invent, and actually we did invent, as we have just seen, we need to invent the new technologies and embrace them and make them work for our economy. And here I think we lack a vision, because we still think too much about conserving. And if you live in Bavaria, it's really very nice there. Yes, so yes, you want to conserve this beautiful landscape and the green pastures, and you see the cows, but this is not the future for our economy. It's for tourism. It's really great. So I'm all about conserving our climate and our nature and the way we live. But in order to conserve this, we need to move forward, and we need to, not just be left behind.
And not repeat the mistakes of the past, like how many inventions have been made in Germany and then sort of taken abroad. And I've talked to so many entrepreneurs who said, well, you know, our machinery is actually being produced so much cheaper in China. And I can actually tell you that's our design, except that, you know, there are so many things that we can talk about. So where would we have the competitive edge? That's one aspect. The other aspect is, because we're sort of, you know, talking about high and ideal things, where is the ethics that was once there, that seems to have sort of drizzled out, that is not there anymore? There's like sort of, we actually have to work in order to gain something, and I know that's very unpopular. We can't just all go and at 63 go off and say, bye-bye, we're going to, you know, go off on an island. Where is the ethics? Where's the core where we need to do something?
I'm very glad you mentioned the 63, because when people talk about ethics, they very often talk about just the young people who are just so lazy. But actually, the young people work more than ever. So the numbers they put in hours of working is larger than it ever was. So perhaps some of the pensioners could go on working a bit longer, so a bit of ethics here would be nice. No, but I think in general we need the ethics that we need to create our own vision, our own world, and that we need to work for that, and not just let the state provide relief whenever it's important, but really say, okay, times are tough, so perhaps we need to buckle up, we need to tighten our belts and move forward and create new stuff and work for the future.
Welfare is not given by God.
It's something we need to earn by actually working towards it. But for this, we need to also let people know what the situation is like. And this is not always popular. Actually, it's very unpopular, as the mayor will know. So here we need to be honest and also take people seriously, because they deserve the truth. And I know that the truth at this moment is not unchallenged anymore. We are in a world where we talk about facts and alternative facts, and science is not necessarily taking that serious anymore. This is exactly what we need to fight. So we need to make sure that people understand they are facts, and then there is non-facts.
Difficult.
Yeah. You talk about like being courageous, speaking the truth. This is really inspiring for many, I think, both in academia and on policy, so you have inspired many. I personally remember your visit to the Institute a few years ago, where you inspired some of our young female economists, talking about holding your own in a still male-dominated field. So, to come back to my question, what or who inspires you, and who has supported you along your way?
So actually you point out what is lacking, or what was lacking, at least when I started my career. There were no female role models at all in economics in Germany, not even in the world. So what inspired me then was this ambition to change that. And in that sense, that really was what drove a lot of my energy, that I wanted to change the world, that I saw and where I thought, okay, the young women need to see a future for them and need to take part in that. And so if I say what supported me or who supported me, I can say that is my family. So first of all, my husband, whom I met at a summer camp in the Alps around 40 years ago. We met there, we discovered we were both economists. We walked up the mountain and discussed economics and all the political implications while walking up. And we hiked down and we continued talking about economics and the political implications. And we've done that for 40 years now. So he is my, my discussion partner.
So how come we have still so many good problems?
And then the next part of my family, this is my 3 daughters who now challenge me. Who are grown-ups now, who come with questions, who challenge what I say on TV, for instance. So they comment all the time, not only how I look, but also what I say.
Well, they certainly give you good advice.
Absolutely, absolutely. And yeah, they bring all these new ideas. This is what we need so much, new ideas. They also give me the right ideas for my playlist on Spotify. So it's just great to see how the young people think and to keep in touch. So this is what helped me all along.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
And by now you know that we need somebody else to come up on stage to sort of say how fantastic you are and why we chose you to get the economics section, and we promised to bring him back. So Moritz, please come back up on stage. President of the Kiel Institute, and it doesn't matter, we sort each other out. We can also look at each other. Now, a voice of reason and reform, and maybe some inconvenient truths that have been coming out. You were one of the supporters for her to get the award. What do you particularly admire, and where do you think maybe that kind of attitude should filter down?
I think we've just heard it from Monika. We've heard the courage to speak truth to, let's call it a social power and parties. I often say that we live in a country where almost every third euro that the federal government has in tax revenues goes to pensions. What else do you need to know about the future orientation of our country? And Monika, in her very, very prominent role at the Council of Economic Advisors, is speaking very clearly and intelligently about these issues. And I'm sure you get a lot of love letters for that too. I think one of the points that on the academic side makes Monika such such a fantastic laureate today is that she is Germany's leading innovation economist. And if there's one thing, and I think we've heard this also from Hélène early on, we're lacking behind in innovation. We used to be the center of of innovation, of development of new technologies, and today I think we're honest, we're the best in the technologies of the last century, but not the best of the technologies of this century. And if that continues, we're going to end up in a museum.
So what do we need to do? Now,
listen
your
to Monika.
Your own personal.
No, I mean, listen to Monika. I think like the the interaction of Ulf and Monika is, first of all, be bold, say where the problems are, and don't be afraid to speak out clearly. And that includes things, as Monika said, like the social security system is in need of fixing, and we live in a country that redistributes from young to old. Societies that take from the young and give to the old don't have a big future, and so it should be the other way around. So start there, and then I think in terms of the technological lack, the backwardness that we now have, addressing that with all the means possible in terms of the university and science system that we have, the funding, but also, we're spending a lot of money now on infrastructure, but if it still takes 6 months to open a company in Germany, all that money will be spent for little permanent gain. So we really need to tackle some of these hard, old and overly regulated facts about our country.
The one good thing is they actually managed to get a ministry running very quickly and doing a couple of compromises, not going by the book. So I wish I could continue this, but we will do that in a bigger panel situation. I wish we had double the time, because each and every one of you ought to have a bit more time. But we have something else before we go into the panel situation.
So we would like...
Hollywood comes later. Hollywood comes later. We promise you. Thank you very much. A little bit of applause.
In the meantime, we're very honored to have him here today with us, Schleswig-Holstein's Minister of Economic Affairs, Transport, Employment, Technology and Tourism, Claus Ruhe Madsen, a jack of all trades. So this time I got the long title.
And you get number one. Well, isn't that nice?
Really?
Yes. You only had to walk a couple of meters, right?
No, I came right away from Legoland in Denmark. So it was a few more meters. There was a new exhibition with Femern Bæltquærung. Very interesting. Okay. And I took a ride with the Danish traffic minister to take a driver's license in Legoland. It's only allowed until you are 13 years old, but sometimes when you get to Legoland, you're a child again.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's courage, but it was funny.
Sometimes you need a little fun to have courage.
Exactly, Klaus. We're going to make it fun, but we're still going to pick up on a couple of aspects of the conversation that we've just heard. There is inconvenient truth out there, and as soon as politicians are actually talking about it, they're not that popular anymore. Seeing that they've got to be re-elected, it's a slight catch. So how do you go about with the negative attitude towards politicians, towards politics, that seems to be, not too sure whether it really is, but seems to be growing? How do you tackle that?
I don't really think it's growing. I think it was always there. It's a question about if you do a decision. Short time ago, I met a referee on handball, and he said to me, "We're doing the same job." I said, "What do you mean?" He said, "Yeah, if I decide something, half of the people find it's good, half of people find not good." So indeed, you have to do some decisions, and not everybody likes it. So that was always like that, but the world is getting complicated. And there is a lot of people who can say, if you do like this, maybe this happens. If you do like this, maybe that happens. And Germany is a very, very big country, which means if you tell the people you have to work more years, at that moment somebody says, oh, think about the people who are working hard all of their life. It's not what about the possibilities, talking about Legoland. There's a lot of old people working there, having fun, doing something else. They used to be nurses or something like that, and now they take care of our small child. They are laughing, the children are laughing. So I think we should think in opportunities, not always in the what could really happen, what could go wrong. So think a little more in what is possibilities.
Yeah, think about possibilities, and yeah, you say half of them like my decision, the other half doesn't. So, and you feel like people really see change as something stressful or threatening. How do you respond? What's your answer? The easy one.
The easy one, yes. I guess it's it's also about trust. Trust in people, trust in government, trust in what I'm saying. And I sometimes think we are afraid that if we say this or that, somebody would become afraid. Somebody would say that's not a good decision. And somehow, if you really look in Balticum or if you look in Denmark, you're very open about your decisions. Then the Danes said we have to support Ukraine, so we take away a Feiertag. I don't really know what that is in English.
Public holiday?
A public holiday, because everybody has to do something. Not only the government does it. And talking about another issue, we have to work longer. We have to do decisions who not may be popular, but we do it together. Not the government does it, we do it together. And I think that is a little about trusting each other and being prepared to do it. And I think that most of the politicals, they're not afraid about doing that. But at the very next day, you read what everything is wrong, it's not going good, and we should be more positive. That could help a lot.
So you also get love letters, yeah? Lots of love letters.
Really, I get very, very many, very friendly. I met people who gives me an ice and says, "Claus, you're doing a good job," and I'm very happy about that. And indeed, I guess the ones who think something else, they walk the other way and they don't bring me an ice. And I think it's also about being prepared to talk to people. If you meet someone, if you go in the evening in a very big Kneipe, a pub, and you talk to the people there, and they discuss with you. They love to discuss political, and then they're kind of nice, because of course when you meet, you could have an opinion about the chancellor and think he's not my chancellor. But if you meet him and he talks to you, I think the most of the people would be friendly. They would talk to him, and that's how it is. When they meet the mayor, some may not like the mayor. Most of them like him because they elected him. And when he meets up with them, I guess they're very friendly to him. And we should not be afraid to talk to people and meet people. And if I'm lucky, I get more ice.
Your optimism sort of gives the sunlight into this room. Thank you very much. What gives you that optimism?
I don't know how it's on your side. On my side, it's like I have a very privileged life, all of my life. And I always took decisions. I'm in a room, I know everything here. And I can see a lot of doors. And I'm prepared to walk through a door. I never know what's inside. It could be black. It could be nasty. Or it could be a very long walk to get to Disneyland. I don't know. So I'm going to open every door I see in my life. And if you do it with your heart, I'm quite sure you're going to see very often you're going to see some very bright things on the other side. Don't stay in the room. Get out there.
Thank you very much. And the good thing is...
I can say.
Exactly. The good thing is, now you don't have to walk, neither to your ministry, nor to Legoland. You can stay up on stage with us, and we'd like to ask everybody who's been on stage before to come back. And for me to have a look at my bosses and female bosses, let me just give you a hand. Okay, fine. Can you give her a hand, please? Because she's just very strong, lady. Yeah, fantastic. Catherine, that was your applause, by the way. Okay, the minister has made us late. playing the blame game, which means we have another 5 minutes at the end. So I do hope that you don't actually have your next date at 17:30, but only at 17:40. And that way we're all happy and we can sit down and really have a little bit of a discussion because, of course, we'd like to go into depth. And I could start with any one of you. Monika, it rings in my ears, and I think it was also Gabrielius who sort of said that. We have to come to terms with reality as it is. Sometimes we do not have answers. You do have some answers, but you share an inconvenient truth. How do we make people understand in our still democracy that we have to swallow the bad in order to make that progress that we all want?
I think people actually know that. They grew up with that. So when we were kids and we were ill, we had to swallow some very bitter tasting medicine. At least that's what was the case when I was a kid. So you learn that. And actually we need to teach our children when they grow up that some things are just not pleasant, but if you go through, then you grow. That's actually also what teaches people resilience. If life is always easy, and then the first problem arises, then people are not up to the challenge. And so sometimes it's actually good that you face a crisis, and then you need to grow. So for me, it was not passing my driver's license. I realized, okay, perhaps I should get my act together. Next time I'll manage. So sometimes failures actually can teach you a lesson. And this is what we need to teach our kids. And also, talk to our population and say, things are not so good right now. We need to grow.
Definitely, and also Gabrielius, please. Yes.
Just a short one. I think that's a very important issue. Please teach the children to lose. You know, I know a lot of. I'm a handball trainer, and the kids are not. They don't know how to lose, so they're very frustrated. And so if you play Ludo or Mensch ärger dich nicht, I don't know again what that is in English. Well, if you play cards with your kids, then please. Let them lose big time, because they really need this feeling so that they know that life is about losing and learning.
And then getting up again, yeah. So think of Rocky, it's not the number of times you go down, it's the number of times you get up again.
Okay, each and every one wants to jump in now. Maybe you start off, and then...
Just picking up of what was previously said, I think that what we are risking in some cases is the disconnect to how people understand the threats and what the government is telling them. And this is also, because in order to calm down the publics, we're telling them, some calming messages, some soothing messages about the future, but people in their hearts, they know better. And then when we're seeing that the disconnect is growing wider, then, for example, people are not investing anymore, people are not preparing for the future, they're not raising the children there, there are things where people understand the reality better than the government is telling them. So my suggestion is that, it's always best to bridge the gap, to tell it as much as it is, in order to not to get caught in the trap in a gap between the actual reality and the one that is being presented.
Thank you very much for being concentrated. We played the microphone game. This was, a new invention today.
Well, one of the greatest achievements of our democracy is the freedom of thoughts. And that's very important, and we have to be careful of that. And I hope that Europe, the democracy of Europe, is strong enough to protect these freedom of thoughts. And if we all agree to that, then we have to have a climate where it's possible to fail. And that's very important, and that's what we have to tell all young people and all entrepreneurs who start something new. You can fail, and it's not a problem to fail, and we have these freedom of thoughts. That's very important.
Do you remember the last really risky decision you had to make? You felt like this is a real risk?
I think every day, that's my life.
I'd like to sort of carry the conversation a bit further. I mean, of course, a bit prompted by your saying, you know, maybe 63 shouldn't be the end for working life. We should get a bit more flexible on that. Not going to open that basket of discussions that would be attached to that. But there seems to be a sense of entitlement all over Europe. Like, we are being owed this. We don't have to do anything for it anymore. We are a democracy, so full stop. There is a democracy. We have the entitlement of having a democracy without the knowledge or the feeling that we actually have to work actually for keeping the democracy going, for keeping economic progress going. Is that something that you observe as well? And if so, where can we change this saturated attitude towards life?
Well, coming again from Lithuania, that not too long ago celebrated just 30 years of independence, I usually tell the story that, you know, we are, and even I am, a part of a generation that knows what it is to be not free. So when we're talking about why Ukraine needs to be supported, you know, what they potentially can lose, what we potentially can lose, this is not, you know, just a political science concept. Like, you know, freedom and not freedom, democracy, not democracy. We know how does it feel to see Russian tanks driving in your capital street. I've seen them. I've seen the same tanks that are now in Ukraine. I don't want to witness that again. I don't want my children to witness that again. So you have a bit different perception, you know, and I think it's important. The more cohesive Europe becomes, so that the more understanding, the more understanding is being brought in from those countries who still remember what it is to, you know, to actually fight for its freedom, and why it is important to do that today.
I think Monika and I are probably sort of in one age group. Moritz, you're already a little bit younger, so your personal experience is slightly different, but then your analysis on that. Is there sort of an economy of leaning back and saying, yeah, we're owed that, and that needs to change back into get up and go?
Look, I think there's certainly an element of we had a very successful system, economic and politically, for a long time, and if systems are successful, they often lose the capacity to question themselves and change at the right time. Just think about the internal combustion engine. We're the world champions in making them, and we slept through the innovation that happened elsewhere. And I think that's a success can make you a little bit lazy, and I think that has certainly happened. But you know, one debate that we're currently having in this country is whether we work too little and whether we need to work more. And then as soon as you look a little bit deeper into these questions, you realize it's probably a combination of both. Yes, we got a little bit entitled, and we're asking for a lot of things from employers, and there's also a demography behind that with the lack of, you know, labor coming through. So people have sort of the opportunity to be entitled. On the other hand, we've also created incentives through the tax system, through the lack of childcare, that mean that many people, especially many women, can't work as much as they would like to. So I think it's a combination of both, of a little bit of sort of soft mental, we got a little bit used to success and we're not maybe getting up early enough to fight for tomorrow, but we've also created a system that doesn't honor and doesn't incentivize doesn't make it possible for everyone to thrive.
We've been talking on different levels, so maybe I'd love you to chip in. We've been talking about global system, Europe a lot, Germany, but then change happens, first of all at the local level, at the regional level. How do you incentivize, maybe here in Kiel, as an example, as a beacon, those thinkers that are not entitled, but that really want to move forward?
I think we have to give everyone the impression that they can thrive no matter what. Yeah? If they are coming from a small village than me and becoming mayor of Kiel, I think that's something I never dreamt of. So this is possible in Germany, that's good. But it's not possible for anyone, or at least a lot of people don't think that this is for them. And so if I understand perfectly when you're criticizing the pension with 63 years, or we have the discussion about the Bürgergeld and so on, and I really think we should discuss it. But I mean, probably no one here on the panel is relying on the German pension system. So we really have to take care that we're not talking down to people and say, you are the regular guys and folks, you are the problem, you are not working hard enough and so on. And so we have problems on every level of society. And in Kiel, I see, when I was young, I said, oh, it's no problem if Bill Gates has all these trillions in wealth, as long as everyone has enough. But that's not how the system works. If I have to take care for affordable housing, then there's an open market. And the people with money, they just can buy the rents or buy houses and apartments that are not on the market anymore for the people who have not a stable economic situation. And so we have to talk on all levels of economic reform. We have, luckily, because we haven't had a war for 80 years, we have a lot of wealth in our society, but not everyone. It's only a small part of society, and we have to deal and discuss this too. How can we give people the impression that everyone can make it, if you're born rich or wealthy or not?
Monika?
I would very much agree, in particular when we see that young kids do not have the same chances. So when I grew up, they had just abolished that you had to pay for school. So for me, I could go to school, and I had a lot of teachers who supported me. Now, if you see how kids thrive in school, it's very much dependent on what the background of the parents is. And this is, I think, outrageous. A country like Germany that doesn't manage to give all the kids a chance to thrive and come from a humble background and become the next chancellor. That's not a good idea. Yeah.
So, well, it has changed since certainly I was a kid.
So when we talk about these topics, we definitely talk about a change in society. So, and not totally new topics. So we kind of get up again and again. So where do we overestimate the readiness of society to embrace change, to really change these things? Like at some point it was changed that people, young children did not have to pay to go to school, so to make it more equal. But now we're going backwards. So how is this happening? Why is there? Where do we underestimate readiness of society to change, and where do we maybe overestimate it?
Nobody feels like they're addressed.
I mean, I happily say one thing, which is something that puzzles me, and maybe my esteemed panel around me has an answer for me, which is if you look at the income side of our government, of our state, how much the government has in revenue that it could use to promote equal opportunity in schools, to build social housing. If you look back 40 years, it was exactly the same relative to our economic, to our GDP, relative to our income, as it is today. Why is it that 40 years ago, for every school, for every kindergarten, for every bridge, for every rail station, even for swimming pools in small villages, there was enough money, and today there isn't? And I come back to these big challenges that we have. It's that on the expenditure side, a lot of the money, 1/3 of the federal budget, is now locked up in expenditures that have very little to do with the future.
Klaus? Oh, yeah.
Now you just said 40 years ago you could build a school, a kindergarten, or a train station. Look how we used to build. Nowadays, if you want to build a school, you need 20 years of bureaucracy and discussions about everybody finding it good or not good. I'm back on my missing English words, but I like the word Allgemeinwohl,
General
public
welfare.
Welfare and well-feeling. And we live in a country with a lot of singular welfare, which means if it doesn't fit in my backyard, I don't want to have it. So we complain a lot against a railroad, against everything. So it's very difficult to build a school or something else, and it's very expensive. I don't know how much a school used to cost 40 years ago, but I would like to mess it up with how much it costs today in manpower or whatever. It's a different world. You just can't build a swim hall nowadays because there's 2 centimeters too less water or whatever. We always find some reason why we should shut up things and not make it possible. So I think a lot of mayors say, I don't do that. I don't really have to build something for the mayor after the mayor after the mayor after the mayor. I want to build something from today. And that's a big problem because we are disgusting. Yeah, a little less talking, a little more walking.
Gabrielius,
Two thoughts on that. I very much agree. There's too little courage among those who need to take decisions, who need to take responsibilities. You mentioned the swimming pool with the 2 centimeters, and now the kids cannot jump in anymore because 2 centimeters are missing. There's this thing that in the forest now you cannot have benches anymore for elderly people to sit down, or even younger sometimes are tired, because if a branch falls down, then it's a responsibility of whoever installed this bench, and so you simply take them out, and so people cannot sit down anymore, which is crazy. So here, people, mayors, politicians, whoever is responsible, need to take responsibility and be courageous enough. And if something happens, yes, something happens. This is life. So the life is risky, and sometimes the risks are bearable because you cannot prevent each and any incident. You need to make sure that on average, things are okay. Now, why is it that people are have so little courage now? It's also why people are not happy with a new windmill in front of their backyard or whatnot. People are very much loss averse. That's what behavior economists tell us. So they don't like losing stuff. They don't like change because they're afraid they will lose stuff, and they don't see the chances that will come with it. And so this is, I think, something that we really need to instill into kids, into elderly people. Life, and it changes, actually can bring good things. It can bring better health with medical advances. It can bring more interesting food if you now get ananas from somewhere else, and you never knew that before, and now you get even more exotic things. So if you just let people try, then they will actually say, yes, actually, there are quite a few modern things that are nice. So now they go to vacation destinations that they hadn't known how to spell it 20 years ago. So yes, once they experience, they actually realize things are not so bad. They are modern, but not so bad after all. But this is something that we need to instill, this longing for uncharted waters. You said you're the Trekkie. I was one too. So this adventurous, longing for, what's behind the door? Find it out. And chances are it's really good. And well, if it's not that good, then close the door again.
Then you
try
something else.
Gabrielius, I think the one is...
Gabrielius, sorry.
Well, it's a difficult task to be in a panel with many people from economic field and then try to squeeze in.
That's why we have you, to bring in the political aspect.
It dissonates a little bit. So anyway, I won't try to segue very nicely. So I'll just say it as it is, as it was announced. So from geopolitical side, there's a lot of talk now about the change that is needed when we talk about defense. And NATO summit starts tomorrow, and probably the main message that will come out of it will be about the 5%, whether countries can commit to 5%. And it's a huge debate, right? So Spain today announced that they're not going to do that. The Belgians are saying, okay, if Spain is allowed not to do that, we won't do that, as well. So it's a tough discussion. I remind the people a bit of a historic, perspective. So before the Second World War, United Kingdom used to spend 4% of its GDP towards defense. At the height of the war, it was 50%. So that tells you a story. And of course, there are better specialists who would explain you how it actually works and what it actually means for the country, how many public services can be provided with that sort of amount, and whether the country can borrow in the midst of a war. I don't think so, at least not to the extent. France, actually, just before the Second World War, they lost several governments because the country was heavily indebted. And said it's impossible to borrow anything else, and they were unable to supply the military with the needed funds. And then, of course, I mean, you know the story. How did it go? So now, when people are saying it's impossible to do anything, I'm saying, okay, so if you don't like the Second World War example, then they take a look at Ukraine. 37%, 40% of their GDP goes to defense. So where do you think we need to end? So, and the question was, so what triggers that? Unfortunately, one of the triggers is crisis. This is when we wake up, really wake up, and then say, okay, fine, maybe that 4% we were naive. Fine, let's spend 15, let's spend 20, but it's always times more to spend when you are in the midst of a crisis, rather than you could have spent preparing and trying to avert it.
I'm sorry if I pick it up on my favorite subject that I've been working as a moderator for quite a number of years, and it's climate change. And we've had the Stern report, 2008, 2009, and it's clear. The longer we wait investing into proper technologies that will push away climate change, the more expensive it's going to be. And maybe it's not us who are paying for it, but it's certainly you and your children that will be paying for it. Before we sort of continue on that, we have actually, as the start of the moderation for the next point, we have, having had this solution-oriented discussion, so I want to make that a reality. And for that, I'm going to throw a Winston Churchill quote to you. Success is not final, failure is not final. It's the courage to continue that counts. How do we need to continue on all your different levels? And maybe just briefly. Maybe start off with the IHK. How do we path the way into a future? And tell us something positive, please.
Yes, of course. I think we all have to get out of our bubble. We all have to watch the other side, because our algorithm is deciding when which we talk together. And I think if we see the people who take these good decisions and are like Hélène, Huby today, these are people we have to look at, and we have to talk to our children that they have to be mutig,
courageous,
courage, and talk positive about the future. We always say the future is so bad. We have to be positive. We have to talk positive about the future.
Maybe we continue with you, because not everybody has the privilege of actually standing firmly with both feet in two countries, very different countries. So how do we get this positive impulse that makes us go on despite of all of it?
Maybe first of all, I don't have one feet in two countries. I feel I have 2 feet in Europe. And we should really strongly all think
what
that.
A quote.
No, it's very, very important to learn with each other and to prepare to take best practice. So I'm not afraid of tomorrow. I'm excited about tomorrow. And Schleswig-Holstein should build out some infrastructures and be prepared for tomorrow. So, and we should trust in the capabilities of others, and that we are a strong country, that we are a country with, Germany, with a lot of smart people. We can really move something if necessary. So Every morning when I'm getting up, I'm a happy guy, and when I come home late at night, I'm still happy. So why shouldn't we all be that?
You have to share some of your medicine. Thank you.
Let's continue here, Dr. Kämpfer.
So I think we always say, yes, the young people are the laziest generation ever, and they always prove us wrong. So I'm really optimistic that they, and my son included, will prove us wrong once again. But in the end, I think we still lack a sense of urgency in when it comes to our economic prosperity, what is a precondition for a strong welfare state. I think we have the sense when we're talking about security, but we still miss the sense of urgency, prosperity, and the state of democracy. And I think these are two sides of the medal. Last week I got a visit from the Indian ambassador to Germany, and I see a change of attitudes during my 11 years being a mayor. When Chinese general consulate, Indian ambassador, or even ambassadors from the Baltic states, between the lines they say, you're the past, we are the future. So we really have to grasp this decisive moment and come to terms and get our act together. And if we do that, then I'm really hopeful that there's enough future for everyone in the world. And if we get the sense of urgency, it will come out just fine.
Moritz?
It's a fantastic question and a very difficult one.
Especially to be answered in 1 minute.
I know. So I keep an eye on time. So in the US, it has become quite common to, especially in the tech world, all these big tech companies, to refer to Europe as the second world. And we're not the first world anymore. That's because we're behind. And at the same time, we're also not the third world. We're somewhere in between. We are the space where it's uninteresting to go for tech CEOs because nothing happens. And so I'm saying this because I do think with all the incredible speed with which technology is changing and will change our lives. We haven't talked about AI, and we're quite grateful. Too many AI panels anyways in the world right now. But it's absolutely imperative that we open our minds to new technologies and throw overboard a lot of what has been. So we have the system where someone can always pull a card and say, well, this is the reason why we can't do this. And I think it's up to us to tell this person, well, you know what, we're still going to do it. Because it makes sense, and we can't wait for all these different millions of little points. So my wife is English, and there's this beautiful English saying, which is better to ask for forgiveness than for permission. And I think that sums it up really well, like an esprit of doing stuff that you think is right instead of always waiting for someone else to give you permission to do it.
I'm so happy we actually have a video of this, because we then need all the best quotes. But I think somebody wanted to give applause. I didn't want to stop that. Last but not least, our champions, and we have the third champion in our mind, so you have to decide who is going first.
Well, first of all, I mean, I'm truly hopeful that Lithuanian ambassador did not come to say something like that to a German mayor. We're truly thankful for what Germany is doing for Lithuania. We truly appreciate the German brigade that is coming to Lithuania. So thank you, really, everyone. But my point is, don't despair, because we're on a path of either ignoring the problem or despairing that we cannot fix it. So also it's very important to remember that Europe, and I'm also convinced European, Europe has solved incredibly big problems in the past by the sheer power of will, by the sheer power of mass that we have, and we have that ability. We have not lost, we have not lost the final battle. We might, we might lose some. We have not lost the war. We might losing some battles that are happening now, but we have not lost the war. So let's not despair. And since we are in the mood of British saying, so my saying is keep calm and carry on.
That's very British. And eat Sandy's pizza.
Monika, now we're really interested in your quote.
Okay, I'm not so good in quotes, but I try to mince my own words. So I think we need to instill, I'm studying again with kids, this taking charge attitude. So be ready and embrace taking charge, take control, volunteer, take initiative. So often it comes about a situation where you need a volunteer, somebody needs to take action, a situation needs to be solved. So everybody should volunteer, everybody should compete to actually be the one that actually takes then charge. And as a country, we have not taken charge. So perhaps because of our history, because we always thought, okay, if the Germans take up this leadership situation, if they get armed, whatnot, for our history reasons, not a good idea. But now it really shows that this was a bad idea. So now we should not leave the job of defending ourselves to the US. We should not say, okay, this technology war is already over because we can never compete with them on platforms, on AI, whatnot. This is not the way to go unless we want to be a tourism country, which in general is I think, not the right attitude. So take charge, volunteer, take initiative. I think that's what we need to talk about.
Well, thank you very much. Okay, here's the deal. The next 5 minutes, and I know that I've promised we're going to be finished by now, are going to go very, very fast. Because first of all, we thank you very much. We're going to push all of you off stage very quickly, because now we come to the third part, which is Hollywood.
Just a little bit of Hollywood.
Just a little bit of Hollywood.
But in the beginning, we mentioned we are celebrating a jubilee. Actually, it's 20 years of the Global Economy Prize. And just last week, we celebrated another jubilee at the Institute, 40 years of our advanced studies program. We had more than 100 alumni from all over the world at the Institute, and we felt kind of nostalgic. And when we were already in this nostalgic mood, and we felt like sometimes we can draw courage from what was achieved. So we invite you all to look back together to 20 years of the Global Economy Prize, and maybe you in the audience will remember the one or other personality or occasion yourself.
What amazing pictures. Some of them are no longer with us, and I had to swallow once or twice quite hard. Now, Moritz, we need you. We need you back up here on stage, because you've got a very important role to play. And
No, I'm
Okay,
destroying
that hasn't.
everything.
That's a premiere, by the way, and we're going to do that in future every year. And
Especially
you
with
know,
the-
this is just sort of part of the game. Thank you very much for being here. So we're going to do this Hollywood thing. Okay, so grab one of those medals, please.
The right one.
This man is strong. He can grab the medal. Fantastic. And could we please now do the handover ceremony? And before I mention her name, well, that was already a leading thing, wasn't it? I'd just like to say we've collected so many quotes on courage, and I have to get rid of some of them, but I think this is fitting. Courage is grace under pressure. Ernest Hemingway. Please, Monika, come back up on stage. Thank you very much. Gabrielius. Yes, you stay here. Gabrielius, please come back up on stage. And it's not as if we didn't have a quote for you as well. It always seems impossible until it's done. Very high quote, Nelson Mandela. High aspiration.
Okay. And of course, now we would have loved to hand over this medal to Hélène, but you've all heard it. She's still stuck in the US and hopefully doing a successful rocket launch this night. I'm pretty sure we will get her the medal. We managed during COVID to get one to Australia, so I'm pretty sure maybe we will invite her one other time to the Institute or to Kiel, or we will send it to her via snail mail.
But you can still give her a little round of applause.
Yes. Keep the picture.
Last but not least, we'd like everybody who was up on stage to come back up on stage. You, ladies and gentlemen, yes, everybody. Even the man who stands firmly with 2 feet in Europe. Absolutely. Okay, and don't worry, ladies and gentlemen, we just need your one applause now, and then you can go. So please give us a big applause for these fantastic, both sponsors and awardees. Thank you very much for all being here. Wow, standing ovations. Thank you, Kiel. Thank you.
Yeah. So, we would like to take the chance to at least say thank you to all who worked for this ceremony, for the award, at the City of Kiel, at the IHK, the Chamber of Commerce and Industry, and at the Kiel Institute. Special thanks to the teams behind the scene who made all the ceremony today possible, and of course, also to you, our audience today.
And very special thanks to our wonderful moderators, Connie and Elisabeth. Thank you so much.
Thank you.